the topic of this panel flow quite nicely with the conversation we had this morning, including with the panel of the morning. And it's just about enabling environment for local content. It's a really critical question. There are many angles. I assume from the different topics that our panelists have accepted to address, we will address many different angles. Enabling local environment, it might just be about the infrastructure, the supply side, international connectivity, what it is, what's the situation in the Kyrgyz Republic, what barriers do we have for connectivity, finance, investment, the difference between urban and rural areas. And we have also the chance to have panelists here who might share experience from their own country. And then, of course, this is the other side, which is the demand side, the content itself, services, the role of traffic exchanges. It will be addressed by Maarit in a few minutes. Of course, policy on the internet that has an impact on the demand side. Which kind of regulation do we have? And we certainly will address this. So I'm very excited to moderate this panel because as really we were lucky this morning to have experts. We have very high-level experts for the panel of this afternoon, and I'm glad to start with you, Excellence, Ernis Mamyrkanov, Deputy Minister of Transport and Communication from the Kyrgyz Republic. Thanks a lot for accepting to be with us today, and Excellence, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Добрый день, уважаемые участники сегодняшнего симпозиума. Очень приятно, что данное мероприятие по столь важным для Кыргызской Республики вопросам проходит у нас в Бишкеке. И мне очень приятно приветствовать всех наших гостей, особенно представителей таких серьезных организаций, которые продвигают в целом по всему миру IT-индустрию и в том числе оказывают содействие для развития IT-индустрии у нас в Кыргызстане. Мне уже сказали о том, что у нас здесь до обеда была очень бурная дискуссия, очень интересные творческие презентации. Соответственно, возможно, на их фоне моя презентация будет немного такая традиционная, чиновничья, но это не удивительно, я и есть чиновник, получается. Но эта вся информация, она тоже имеет очень большое значение и отображает позицию нашего правительства, нашего государства в целом в области развития IT-технологий. Я думаю, что те данные, которые я сегодня приведу, они будут, скажем, приятными для всех участников, в том числе для наших гостей. Начнем с того, что область информационно-коммуникационных технологий постоянно находится в движении и в процессе развития. Поэтому очень важно на международном уровне обсуждение развития ИКТ и создание новых путей интеграции, что позволит каждой стране и каждому человеку обеспечить доступ к всемирной связи посредством информационных технологий. Кыргызстан активно расширяет свое присутствие в новых перспективных сегментах телекоммуникационного рынка, создает возможность предоставления населению высокотехнологичных
IT technologies and tries to provide IT technologies to all the citizens of Kyrgyzstan. And development of ICT is considered as the facilitator of the economic growth, and it is one of the main important means of integration to the world economy. I would like to inform you about the current status of development of information communication technologies in the Kyrgyz Republic. So the telecommunications area is very important for the economy of the country. It demonstrates the dynamics of development, and the growth rate makes from up to 30% of the services. in the gross domestic product, and in gross domestic product it makes about 8%. The market of mobile communication is a very dynamically developing area, and it is a highly profitable segment of the market. It takes 71% of the market, and the number of the users of mobile communication, 6.1 million users, and penetration makes 118%, 6%. And the DMS, CDMA 800, GSM 1800. So please do not be surprised, because in our country it is very popular to have several SIM cards per one person. They can use services of different telecommunication operators. But anyway, the indicator is very high. And we also promote 3G and 4G technologies, which is focused on the wide range of users of telecommunication service users. They can be compared to the fixed communication, and they support the multimedia, and they provide high-speed communication. In accordance with the digital plan and the plan for transition of Kyrgyzstan into digitalization of Kyrgyzstan, and in 2008 we have made the pilot project in Batken Oblast, which covers 7.8%. This is very important because this oblast, or this region, has borders with two countries, and it is mountainous area, and we made the pilot project on implementation of the internet television, and when we have the government resolution on transition to the digital radio and television broadcasting. And this year, Kyrgyz Telecom has launched as pilot project 9 transmitters or full-fledged DVB-T2 standards. The pilot was DVB-T, and now we have DVB-T2. Now about 62% of the population are covered by the digital broadcast. And by the end of 2015, we are planning to cover 95% of the population. And we should consider that Batken Oblast, Batken region is still using DVB-T. But in the nearest 2 or 3 years, will be transferred, switched or replaced with DVB-T2. Everything is included in our government and national policy program. The government policy on digitalization is focusing on the meeting demands of business, population, and the government in terms of access to information and IT industry as a whole. And development of the wire and wireless technologies and their implementation in our country helped us to increase the number of users. In 2014, the number of people having access to internet made about more than 4 million, which is 75% of the total population of Kyrgyzstan. And the technologies and on bandwidth technologies mostly provided and highly provided in Chuy Oblast here, and in the regions these technologies are also developing, and they have capacity to develop these technologies. And construction of fiber optics is focusing on improving the communication towards Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, China, and the construction of fiber optic channel. It will be the high technology and the transmission of data, which will be the basis for construction of the advanced model of telecommunication system in the Kyrgyz Republic. And the use of these high technologies, and which will impact the quality of services provided by operators, and it will improve the quality of services and enhance and improve the economic indicators of the country. We will also discuss some recent changes and amendments in the legislation, but I would like to highlight that yesterday we managed to defend amendments to the telecommunications law on telecommunications and postal services, on the transborder and communication, which is also the contribution by our ministry in development of IT. In the current year, the national operator Kyrgyz Telecommunication, they upgraded the telecommunication and to connect with fiber optics Bishkek-Batken. Fiber optics channels was laid, which covers, and the plan is to cover the whole country with fiber optics. Elkat, this company, also successfully implements the projects on laying fiber optics throughout the country. In red, you can see the existing lines, and in blue, these are the channels which are under. And in the nearest future, we will have the coverage of the whole country with fiber optics. You can see the transborder connection with the neighboring countries, Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, Kazakhstan, and China. The government policy in development of communication and information technologies is regulated by the following laws of the Kyrgyz on the telecommunication, postal services, on information, on digital electronic signature, and other legislation. The goal of this area is to develop the telecommunication market and information services based on the advanced and high technologies with the use of advanced innovative technologies. At the same time, ensuring guaranteed and equal access to the services which are available in the market for the population, and integration of the road transport networks into the general network of the region. And it explains why this area is referred to and is under the competence of the Minister of Transport and Communication, because we are responsible for the roads. So priority for development is creating the information community, providing access to the population to the services, and ensuring liberal conditions to meet the interests of the stakeholders, and providing high quality services in the market, and involvement of the foreign and domestic investments, and providing access to the advanced and telecommunication services and information resources. Dear participants of the symposium, I would like to inform you that in our country, in the telecommunications market, we have many priority projects launched in development of telecommunications, so development of the high-tech parks and development. There is a plan for the government and the local governments for 2014-2016, and transition to the digital television. And the process of e-government plays an important role in implementation of this plan, which enables to widely use internet and to achieve openness and accountability of the public authorities to the population, to reduce corruption, and to increase the role of business sector and civil society. Implementation of these projects will facilitate development of ICT in Kyrgyzstan, and will increase attractiveness of the telecommunications market of Kyrgyzstan. And here I would like to say that during coffee break and yesterday at the dinner we have discussed and mentioned that if we take even the area of development of the digital radio and television broadcast, I would like to say that recently I have visited seven or six countries, and the most liberal conditions are available in Kyrgyzstan, especially if we compare to other post-Soviet countries, including Baltic countries. And most of the countries kept the multiplex resources under the competence of the public or the government, but here in Kyrgyzstan, only multiplex is under competence of the government. We have 13 national multiplex. In other countries, this number reaches 45. So that means that all which is available we are giving to the business and to the television area players, and they can be co-owners of these networks. This is our peculiar characteristic of Kyrgyzstan. Another position of the government is that for the last 10 years we have discussed several times the adoption of the law to regulate Internet as a whole, and for the last 2 years we have several attempts to do so, and the position of the Ministry of Transport and Communication and the government, and including the community, the operator, is the same. We still try to go in, we shouldn't go too deep in this area, and we have the legislation adopted by the International Telecommunication Organization. We have the ministry which establishes the policy for development of ICT, and in addition we have the regulator independent of the ministry which is engaged in issuing the permits and licenses, and this regulator is in charge of development of ICT industry in the country. In this term, I would like to finalize my presentation with that we're unifying the world through development of ICT. And again, I would like to reiterate the position of the government that we are with the players and the stakeholders of this area and the operators.
Thank you very much for setting the scene, recalling the achievement of your government in the ICT sector. I'm very happy to introduce now Jayant Khobragade. I'm sorry if I mispronounce your name. You are the ambassador of India, and we know India has a very rich experience in local connection for the internet. So thank you for being there with us, Mr. Ambassador. The floor is yours.
Dear Deputy Minister, dear members of the Internet Society and National Institute of Strategic Studies, dear friends, good afternoon, namaskar, здравствуйте, and salama sizdarbi. I am really happy to be here and to share with you, some elements of India's experience. As Honorable Deputy Minister, he in the beginning of his speech, he said that he called himself chinovnik, like a bureaucrat. He is not a bureaucrat; he is a politician. I am the bureaucrat, So you should be actually ready with a lot of figures to be bombarded on you. But when I started thinking, I thought that these figures, in any case, the source will remain the same, either for me or for you. So I thought that after giving you just little background about the volume of the internet spread in India, I will highlight just 3-4 aspects that how this internet internet environment is being used for different purposes in India, both by the private sector and the government and private individuals. So let me give you some idea about the size of the India's internet, the access which people have to internet in India. Every moment the figures are changing. India has 243 million internet users. Now 243 million, it's a country of 1.27 billion. So 243 million just makes around 20% of the total population. India's population, as you know, it is, we are 1/6 of the humanity. So of course, I mean, in terms of numbers, it's satisfactory that, okay, we have, 243 million and it's, 20% reach, etc. But as compared to the global internet user, we are just 8.33%. So it means that, we have a long way to go ahead. But another important factor, if we look at the percentage growth, now it will be clear in the next slide, the percentage growth, the rate at which India is growing as compared to other countries. It is 14%, for the last year. Now if we see the next slide, yeah, so if we look at 2010, country's share of world internet user was just 4.4%, Now we have come to 8.33%, and in the meantime we had, growth rates of 48%, 36%, 27%, etc. So that gives a lot of hope that, internet is getting popular and it is being used, etc. So this is, the volume, and of course, it is across the country, from Jammu and Kashmir till Kerala, and, from Bombay till the northeastern region, there is spread, I'm not going into those details. So now I will highlight 3-4 aspects that how this environment is being used effectively. And before I do that, let me quote India's Prime Minister, who has assumed his Prime Ministership this year, Prime Minister Narendra Modi, when he was Chief Minister of a state called as Gujarat. In one of his address, he mentioned IT plus IT is equal to IT. This is good for a Boolean algebra. So he said that information technology plus Indian talent is equal to India's tomorrow. I think there's a lot of sense in what he has said. Everyone knows that about the development which India has done from the beginning of 90s, in early 90s. We call it that IT revolution. Of course, IT revolution is not only about, writing softwares. There is another industry which is associated with it. It is called as BPO, or business process outsourcing. All of you probably know what is business process outsourcing, and I'm mentioning this especially because I think Kyrgyzstan also has a huge potential, to develop this particular industry. Although we don't see much of the call centers and BPOs here. And BPO is what? If one industry is not able to manage to process all its data, all its work, it gives, it outsources job to another company. So it may be, present in that particular country or outside that country. So when it is, outside that country, then it is, offshore business processing, and it has a huge market. This BPO is $150 billion industry. 30% of it is done by the offshore, companies. And in that, offshore companies, India's share is 56%, So 56% of offshore BPO work is done in India. And there are different kind of things. It's not only, writing softwares, as I mentioned. It could be, anything. It could be, for example, maintaining credit cards. Now, the bank is in the United States, Citibank, for example, but all the credit cards, all queries, all maintenance, all, complaints, etc., everything, not only calls are answered, all records are maintained. So that kind of thing. So I wanted to show you a small video about, what is this BPO about, and then I'll go further. Is it very important to do this right away? Okay, audio, otherwise it will not come. I think it is absolutely important then. Can you hear? Not yet. Okay, so till the time we have see, I asked, whether I will be able to show video. They said, yes, show. But, they didn't tell you whether you will be able to listen to the video or not, Okay.
It's a city of the which is come from Spain. We basically have around 30 minutes as our turnaround time to generate a report.
are two different examples.
From San Francisco to Bangalore. In this particular example, we have lots of old photos that are fading away.
Teleradiology and Scan Cafe service very different markets, but they are both examples of a new generation of fast-growing businesses bringing increasingly sophisticated outsourcing operations to India.
You know, in 2002 when we set up teleradiology, it was essentially unheard of. Everyone would go like, terror, what? You know, so it was a concept that was new. It hadn't been done. Doing it from India was, of course, unheard of because it wasn't even being done really in the US. It was just something that was so new.
The company now employs more than 50 radiologists in India and other countries, sending back scans to hospitals in the US, Europe and Singapore in as little as 30 minutes. And they're now looking to expand their services into less developed places, including Africa. Scan Cafe, meanwhile, was started out as a class project at the Wharton Business School. It began scanning and enhancing old photographs, but now increasingly employs high-end designers to create custom-made photo books. Originally, the founders planned to do this work in America.
And when we had the photo editing staff in San Francisco, it was costing us roughly $1 a photo just to enhance the colors and make it look nice and crisp. And very soon we realized that most consumers are not going to be able to afford paying $1 per photo just for photo enhancement. And the cost differential between the US and a city like Bangalore in India is almost 1:10 for a graphic editor kind of skill.
India's first generation of IT outsourcers pioneered the use of call centers and basic software development from cities like here in Bangalore. But now a new generation is rising in which ever more complicated services are being undertaken in cities like this.
So internet has given a big boost to this industry. There are several examples, even youngsters of 17 years old, 18 years old. I mean, there are many success stories in this field. There was a youngster of 17 years old. He learnt designing webs. Then he started approaching many companies in the United States. Of course, they didn't appreciate what he was doing, etc. Then he became their fake customer. Then he started asking, I searched your website, but I'm not able to get this information, that information through the fake IDs. And then finally again approached and then said that if you have this information, etc., etc., if you organize it well, then maybe your business will grow up. He become, at least his company size was, 1 year back was $1 million. He was just, 20 years old boy. So there are, a number of success stories in the private sector. And government also uses it very effectively. I'll give one example. Most of the government websites in India are maintained very well, and everyone these days talk about attracting investment. Now what is attracting investment? That you tell about your policies, that how transparent they are and how user friendly, etc. That is one thing. But another thing is that people have to know about what's happening, what kind of projects are there. There is one website, for example, tenders.gov.in. That website, what does it do? All the tenders, whether it was they're of the central government or of the different states, any government body, they declare those tenders. And then you can actually select them by state, by fields, whether it is in mining or it is construction of road, etc., etc. And it is such a useful tool, because I have worked earlier in one of the European countries as a commercial officer, and that was the most important website, because I could any tender which was more than $1 million in the infrastructure, I could just extract and send it to the companies which are interested. I think this experience could be very useful, because when as an ambassador, when I try to look at some tenders coming in the mining sector or any other sectors which I have to send back to GOI, it becomes difficult. So if that knowledge could be organized, then it will be useful. Both for us, those who want to invest, and for Kyrgyzstan probably who wants to attract investment. And as I said, that BPO could be very important model of an industry for Kyrgyzstan, because here Russian language, excellent speech, without any accent, and for the salary structure as compared to Moscow, etc., is much lower. So we are ready to share our experience with our Kyrgyz friend if they find some good clients, maybe bank, or maybe any industry, telecommunication industry, etc. Let me come to the second aspect. I talked a little bit about the private sector, internet and social development. I will also show you excerpts from a speech of Sam Pitroda. Sam Pitroda, he lives in the United States. He has more than 100 patents. He was advisor to different prime ministers of India. He also chaired a commission called as National Knowledge Commission. That commission has given a lot of reports and focusing on 27 areas to the Indian government. And basically, the broad approach of government of India is to establish connectivity, then to establish platforms and applications. So these three aspects, let us listen to Mr. Pitroda.
In India, internet is not about just GDP, e-commerce. It is all about development. It is all about growth. And I want you to know that we are very conscious of the fact that growth and GDP is an important piece, but it is not necessarily the only piece that we are focused on. So I will tell you a little bit about three different pieces to this puzzle that we are engaged in. One is connectivity that Kapil talked about. There we have two major pieces: National Knowledge Network to connect 1500 nodes to 40 gigabit bandwidth to connect all our universities, all our colleges, R&D labs, later on maybe courts, governments, and all of that. This network is going to cost us about $3 billion. 1100 nodes are already working, and we believe this is going to be the mother of all the networks. And we are beginning to consolidate a lot of the old networks onto what we call NKN. In addition, like Kapil mentioned, we are connecting 250,000 panchayats to local government using optical fiber. As you know, we already have 1 million kilometers of optical fiber in place, and we are adding another 4 to 450,000 kilometers for the last mile connectivity. When this network is operational in next 12 months, you will really have robust fiber network all over. Because without the right kind of fiber backbone, no amount of wireless network is good enough to carry the kind of data we need to carry. With this, we are creating platforms. Nandan is working on UID platform. Dr. Kasuri Rangan is working on National GIS platform along with Department of Science and Technology, where we will integrate all kinds of maps. Today in India, we have 30 different kinds of maps. We are working on data centers, 4 major data centers in the country. And these are massive data centers. Because all of our strategy is based on cloud computing, open source software, low cost terminals. And with these data centers, all of the computing power would be centralized at the federal level, and then each state will have their own data centers. There are roughly about 30 major applications, from food distribution to employment guarantee scheme income tax, driver's license, passport, and the list goes on and on. Sum total today we have 10,000 software people working in the government on all of these applications. So when you put all of these pieces together, networks, platforms, applications, we believe government of India would wind up spending about $20 billion, which is huge, to provide the kind of infrastructure that you would need to essentially re-engineer government, to redefine roles and relationships, to really create a whole new framework for development.
So basically this is the overall policy structure, it's connectivity, creation of platforms and application. I'll just rapidly go through some of the elements in the vision and the kinds of application which are created for the citizens of the country. Vision moment. Next slide. This is the vision of the Department of Information Technology: developed nation and an empowered society. So and the use of basically information technology for that. And objectives, earlier we used to ask people or say that does he know ABC of it. Now I think we will have to ask whether he knows E of it, because now everything comes with E. E-government, E-industry, E-innovation, E-learning, E-security, E-inclusion, etc. So this is this is the vision, and this is about National Knowledge Commission, the kind of reports they have prepared. Then this is the structure of the Ministry Department of Information Technology. There are many centers which are very important. For example, one center deals with the internet security, another deals with connectivity, etc. And the kind of applications, for example, this voter information, then for Clean India, blood donation, etc. I'll show you, for example, voter information sites. Every individual, he can know about whether his registration has been done properly or not. Then this is our Seva service. So this is our passport service. So this application is also available. Then this is for the farmers. Now you don't see much of the downloads because it is yet to become popular. But I think gradually people will start using it. This talks about which crop, which season, at what time, where, etc. and what kind of weather it will be there. So all. I have given only few examples, but there are a number of them, and because of that, this center which develops the Center for Development of Advanced Computing, they have got 2014 United Nations Public Service Forum prize, because of this development of such kind of softwares for the public use. Next. See, the third aspect which I wanted to mention, I talked about how it is used, internet is used both by the government and by the private sector. I think the third important things, especially for the traditional societies which internet does, is the preservation of the knowledge, and which is a very important element. I'll give you two examples. Recently I heard an interview of a musician. Now the musician went to some remote place to see birds, flamingos, and in that house there was a gentleman who was musician, but he was not practicing. He used to practice on some percussionist, it's called as dole, on that instrument, but he didn't have any students, therefore, so he was not practicing. But then he was a musician. He directs, he composes music for Bollywood. So then he got, we talked to three of his friends. Then through Skype, this gentleman started giving them lessons, and within 2-3 months times, this teacher has got 150 students. So that's how traditional knowledge is saved. Another example is that we have a big company like eBay. It is called as Flipkart. They are also a multi-billion-dollar company. Now they have, started a project, with a city called as Banaras. Now they will, Banaras is famous for silk saris. So they will, organize the entire chain of supply and, distribution for the Banarasi saris. So, internet also helps in preserving the traditional knowledge. And then, I have, the question mark that the remote areas gain from the center, of course. But, we also can look at from this point of view that many things which, I did not know what was happening in the rural areas, or, the people who do not know what's happening in the rural areas, the traditional methods, etc. Now, we started coming to know. So therefore, the life of a citizen, it enriches. It's not a one-way stream that, from center it is going to the remote areas. No, from remote areas also we are getting many things. There are many examples. I have, talked about, this Banarasi sari. There are examples of handicrafts. There are examples of how these, mud pots are used to make refrigerators. There's a low-cost, preservation of food, etc. So this is the third aspect which I wanted to highlight. And another general point which I want to make is that internet is a big teacher. It has actually broken the monopoly of knowledge. And I think my time is up. So I'll just show you one video that how this internet is useful to spread the knowledge. And I will stop after making one small statement. I'll show just 1 minute video, if you allow. Yeah. And 10 seconds for a statement.
Started in 1999 to try and address this problem with an experiment, which was a very simple experiment in New Delhi. I basically embedded a computer into a wall of a slum in New Delhi. The children barely went to school, they didn't know any English, they'd never seen a computer before, and they didn't know what the internet was. I connected high-speed internet to it, it's about 3 feet off the ground, turned it on and left it there. After this, we noticed a couple of interesting things which you'll see, but I repeated this all over India and then through a large part of the world, and noticed that children will learn to do what they want to learn to do. This is the first experiment that we did. 8-year-old boy on your right, teaching his student, a 6-year-old girl, and he was teaching her how to browse. This boy here in the middle of central India, this is in a Rajasthan village where the children recorded their own music and then played it back to each other, and in the process they enjoyed themselves thoroughly. They did all of this in 4 hours after seeing the computer for the first time. In another South Indian village, these boys here had assembled a video camera and were trying to take the photograph of a bumblebee. They downloaded it from Disney.com or one of these websites 14 days after putting the computer in their village. So at the end of it, we concluded that groups of children can learn to use computers and the internet on their own, irrespective of who or where they were. At that point, I became a little more ambitious.
So he goes on and on. These are excerpts from TED Talk. You can see for yourself later. In 2013 he won $1 million. This video was $1 million worth, by the way. He won prize of $1 million. He is Dr. Sugata Mitra. He is an entrepreneur himself. He teaches in England, one of the universities in England. I just wanted to say, finish my speech by quoting Alvin Toffler, who said that in 20th century literacy may be reading and writing. But in 21st century, it is all the time learning, unlearning and relearning. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and I apologize for being so strict, but I'd like to have some conversation after all those wonderful speech. As I said, I'm personally always being impressed and inspired by Indian innovation in many domains, including this one. And I guess that innovation will also be the topic of the next speaker. We have the chance also to have here the Vice President of Kyrgyz Telecom, Ermek Niyazov, and please, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Спасибо большое за предоставленную возможность выступить перед этой замечательной аудиторией. Значит, как уже представили, меня зовут Ermek Niyazov, я являюсь вице-президентом акционерного общества Kyrgyz Telecom. И сейчас я хочу рассказать про то, что мы имеем, кто мы, какие наши планы на будущее. Ну, уже так получилось, что много спикеров уже выступило до меня, многие цифры уже были сказаны, поэтому некоторые слайды я, видимо, быстро проскочу. Так, это, да? Да, сейчас. Ну, давайте начнем с того, что расскажем, кто мы, и несколько мифов о нашей компании. Значит, наша компания называется Открытое акционерное общество Kyrgyz Telecom, была создана на базе Министерства связи Кыргызской Республики, преобразовано акционерное общество. Мы оперируем и предоставляем различные услуги. Значит, самая основная из них – это фиксированная связь. Также мы занимаемся телерадиовещанием, мы занимаемся также услугами телеграфа и предоставляем различные услуги операторам. Да? Так же, как я говорил, значит, мы акционерное общество с государственной долей, да, 77-84% принадлежит государству через фонд госимущества. И также 12,51% также принадлежит государству через соцфонд. Вот, остальные проценты акции свободного обращения любой желающий может приобрести акции. И немного цифр. Значит, в 2013 году наша выручка составила 2,2 миллиарда сомов. В этом году мы планируем получить примерно 2,4 миллиарда сомов. Значит, в следующем году мы хотим нарастить выручку примерно 2,6 миллиардов сомов. Значит, мы имеем 6 филиалов, центральный аппарат и наше республиканское производственное объединение РМТР, которое занимается телерадиовещанием. Итого у нас в компании работает 4086 человек. И как раз таки о мифах, которые идут о нашей компании, значит, мифы такие, что Kyrgyz Telecom – это большой монополист. Ну, я специально показал нашу выручку. Перед этим уважаемый замминистра показал структуру отрасли связи. Да. Всего отрасль связи дает выручку в Кыргызстане 25 миллиардов. Да. Из этих 20 миллиардов Kyrgyz Telecom это 2,2 миллиарда. То есть в этом отношении мы далеко не монополисты. Единственное, мы действительно монополисты, это предоставление услуг связи, фиксированной связи именно по меди. Да? То, что было создано многие годы назад. У нас есть инфраструктура, которая нам досталась по меди. Действительно, мы там монополисты, потому что сейчас в медь никто не вкладывается уже давно. Все вкладываются в оптические линии, все вкладываются в 3G, 4G, все вкладываются в различные другие технологии, вкладываются в разработку программного обеспечения. Вот. Но мы тоже там хотим участвовать и конкурировать. Значит, кто наши клиенты? Как я уже говорил, мы предоставляем те услуги, которые я назвал, значит, B2B, да, бизнес-to-бизнес, это банки, средний и малый бизнес, заводы, предприятия, сфера услуг. Значит, и B2C – это все население Кыргызстана, которое использует наши услуги. В основном это, конечно, услуги телефонии и интернет-доступ. В основном услуги через ADSL. Также мы предоставляем услуги государству. Государство – одно из самых крупных наших клиентов. Значит, это само центральное правительство использует наши услуги. Значит, управление аппарата президента, куда входит Джоркмеш, местное самоуправление, значит, акиматы, яйл өкмөтү и другие ведомственные бюджетные организации. Также мы имеем значит, такой сегмент бизнеса, как оператор-то-оператор, когда мы предоставляем услуги другим операторам. Да? Туда входят операторы другие, мобильные.
Mobile operators, alternative operators. We provide the opportunity of interactions through interconnection agreements, data transmission, and we also renting out our premises. This is the map of opportunities. The Deputy Minister already demonstrated it to you, but I would like to make comments on this map. I called it and give the name to this map, the map of opportunities. The point is that traditionally, since by geography Kyrgyzstan is a mountainous country, and Kyrgyzstan has never invested in the wire network. We have established through the radio relay stations. We have about 60 radio relay stations belonging to Kyrgyz Telecom. These are highly costly because in some areas where there is no electricity, they are using diesel generator. When we started using the cables, it makes the services cheaper. This policy was undertaken by the company 10 years ago, even 15 years ago, when we built wanted to show infrared hue. We have started investing into fiber optics in the 90s when we have built the first section of fiber optics. Further, we have laid in Chuy Oblast and we made a ring here. And one section was missing, but it was my fault. I didn't. But it is a loop. It is a complete ring of fiber optics. If you follow the news, we reached Jalalabad, Osh, Batkent, and we have finalized this section. We're still working on this section. Therefore, we have the fiber optic links with all our neighboring countries, Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, and China. We have agreements with all these countries. Business volumes with our neighboring countries is different. The biggest partner, as you may know, that it is Kazakhstan, because we receive all the traffic from Kazakhstan, both voice and internet. And further, as needed, we work with other partners. This is the map of opportunities, is accessible, and we use it in our meetings with regional communication operators so that our neighbors from Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, they can use our networks as a transit to other countries. There are a lot of discussions about the country is a landlocked country, but I would like to present the word landlocked is highly popular, and we need to switch into land-linked because we need to provide links with other countries. In these terms, our company is doing much and taking much efforts, and all the money which we generate, we try to invest into improvement of our services, and we're trying to increase the length of fiber optic lines. This year we have laid about 900 kilometers of fiber optic cables. Compared to other companies, it is not so much. But in fact, this implies big efforts, big job, because our geography is very complicated. If we take Bishkek-Osh project, it was started in 1990 and it finished only in 2014. It took 5 years. This is because of the climatic conditions. When there is snow in the mountains, no works can be done. Now we have finished, and now we're installing the equipment, and soon we will provide a full package of services to the whole country. If we increase the speed, the prices will fall down, and it will be good progress for us. Actually, my presentation is called Smart Government. I decided to give the name to my presentation this way because we should try to have the smart governance. So here we had several questions: why we're doing, for whom we're doing this, and we believe that it is important for our country, for our government, to make it smart. We have smart city, which is very fashionable now. We have safety city, but we decided to take the whole country. Therefore, we have the draft project of the smart country, and we face our project in the following way. 2014 will be the year of completion fiber optics, and we also launched the digital television. These are all infrastructure. 2015, this year we are proposing to all the stakeholders, not only the government but also the businesses, to the citizens, to use what we have created so that they can benefit from our products. And further, we should have further developed. And there was good presentation where he mentioned about the charter. The charter is a non-official document, but it unifies all the communication operators to achieve one purpose and one goal, to have infrastructure. Since Kyrgyz Telecom is owner of the much share of infrastructure, therefore we're highly involved in this process. This kind of picture, I'm sure you have seen them, where you can, when people talk about e-government or e-security, about CODs, or public access points, and a lot of things have been told, but we do not specifically document prescribing all the activities. In these terms, our company is ready to provide everything which is included in. I'm saying about infrastructure. We want to provide security online. We want to fix everything, and we want to monitor everything and to have monitoring work. As for the infrastructure, our company is ready to provide infrastructure to all these agencies and organizations. We made studies in Bishkek city, and we can make and install signals and connect to each traffic light point. We can lay cable to any agency and institution as they wish. We are seeking their requests. We can connect cable and lay cable to any educational institutions at the districts and level. And we can also install monitoring of the traffic, road traffic. We have the opportunity to provide or to establish the center of data processing. We have many premises where we can host or establish new data centers without need to establish new facilities, and because all the assets of our company were constructed for the communication purposes. These are very effective. And therefore we make investment on the development of fiber optics. And we want to bring e-government and to provide assistance to other sectors so that they can work effectively, like health. In this term, our company is ready for these activities, and in addition we have many national programs and projects like the Center for Control and Management of Crisis Situations. We have video conference communication in the government, and it was covered widely. There are many projects. We have the project on security, the Ministry of Internal Affairs, and all these commissions have employees of our company. That means that our company is highly involved in establishing and creating this infrastructure projects. This is my presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We can see you take the supply side very seriously. I'd like to come back to that later. Now I would like to call Maarit Palovirta to just give us a short presentation on the IXPs. I guess this is the topic of your presentation. Thank you, Maarit.
Okay, so hello again, good afternoon this time. I will talk a bit today about the localization of content and also internet traffic exchange and how that can help and boost the internet ecosystem and the internet development effort in any country really. And today I think we've talked a lot about connectivity. So we have had many presentations about fiber, building the infrastructure. But if you think about it, the reason for the internet is really to connect to something. So you need content. Content can be websites, it can be services, it can be applications as we've seen, but you need relevant content so that the users will want to actually use the internet. And at ISOC, we have done quite some work on this. So this is an area that we put quite a lot of effort into. We have many experts in the team who work in this area globally. And this is a graph from a study that dates back to 2013 that ISOC did together with the OECD and UNESCO, and really examining the relationship between local content, internet development, and access prices. And it's not a very complex graph, but just to perhaps explain it a bit. So it is very clear from this study that local content, if you have good existing local content, and here in the case of Kyrgyz Republic, we could mean content in the Russian language, perhaps in Kyrgyz language, content that is available to all population. So if you have good content in the country, then you have demand for connectivity, which drives, of course, investment into infrastructure, and vice versa. So if you have good infrastructure, then people have access, and you have smart people all around the world, in rural areas, in towns, and there will be some people who will establish companies and start creating services and content. And if this ecosystem works well, then typically, as an end result, we see lower internet prices. Of course, the prices then depend also on the environment, so depends how many operators we do have in the market, etc., etc. So that's the starting point. Now, what does then the local content development entail? So I've taken here some information from a paper. So some of you might be aware of the Internet Governance Forum. It's an annual forum that ISOC is strongly supporting. We are one of the, let's say, organizers in this forum. The last one took place in Istanbul in September. And as part of this forum, they had various best practice forums, and one of the forums was on local content. There were many others on spam and other interesting areas, but there was one specifically on local content. And the outcomes from this workshop or this forum were the following things. So they identified 3 key pillars for local content. And the starting point is always the user, of course. So the users are consumers of content, so they are the ones who create the market, but also the users are the creators and disseminators of content. So you have the innovators and entrepreneurs in this group. So really, the goal for local stakeholders should be to create an enabling environment for the user so that they can effectively consume and create content. And the next 2 pillars then would be part of this enabling environment. So you have the infrastructure, which we have, I think, discussed quite in detail already. The only thing I would add here is the local content hosting companies. So in order for content to be available at the domestic level, typically it helps enormously if you have data storage facilities locally, so that the people don't have to use international connectivity and pump up prices, and also so that the latency, so that the quality of the content is good when people are accessing it. Also, internet exchange points domestically. So this has a similar function. So again, we create an exchange point where traffic is exchanged in the domestic environment, meaning that you don't need to necessarily connect internationally and increase prices, etc. I will say a few more words about that a bit later. And then we have the regulatory environment. So not going to go into details, but liberalization of the telecom sector, intellectual property rights are important when you talk about creating content, and also media literacy programs in some countries help to really stimulate the content creation. You can find, by the way, the paper online, so I have all the links in the end. And I wanted here, and I'm here touching the same topic that James Cowie touched in his keynote, so creation of content globally. And I cannot claim that I have double-checked these numbers. This comes from the Oxford Internet Institute, Oxford University. They have a project on mapping top-level domain names, including generic ones, and also the country code top-level domain names. And based on this piece of research, they concluded that 78% of all web content production still happens in the United States and Europe. And I don't know exactly how the laser here works, but I made it work. So here you have then Central Asia, the balls. So you see Kyrgyzstan is there, KG. You have Kazakhstan neighboring, you have Uzbekistan, Azerbaijan. But the balls are much smaller, meaning that the local content is not nearly as significant as in some of the countries in Europe. And whereas probably the demand is similar. So if you think about Germany, German people, not everybody speak English, but they have managed to create a lot of local content, so people are participating, so they're using the internet, and they have a functioning internet ecosystem. So that's the first conclusion. The second conclusion from this slide is that, okay, we talk about local content, and it would be great if local people created it, it would be hosted locally. But also the reality of the globalized world today is that in Kyrgyzstan, like in many other places, you will have people who speak very good English, and they will want to access some of the international content as well. So they will want to use the YouTubes, the other services from the US. And this also drives the demand for internet here. So that's again where the internet exchange point comes in. So to have all this content coming into your country in an efficient way, at a relatively moderate price, and with good quality, we have seen that it helps usually to establish a domestic internet exchange point. And when I say a domestic internet exchange point, it's typically a point that is based on public peering, so a neutral point where both domestic and international operators, content providers, sometimes NRENs, government institutions can connect to, and they exchange traffic and content so that this information is flowing more freely and is closer to the end user. This comes from one of our studies as well, so just wanted to point out that we talked a lot about the international connectivity on one hand, then you have the last mile, the consumer end, and the internet exchange points we've tried to depict here with these squares. So they really fall into the middle mile, and they are the kind of crossroads of the different pipes that come and go out of your country. And there's been quite a lot of work done on internet exchange points also internationally. So the OECD, for example, has, as you see here, a statement, has recognized that they are now a vital part of the internet ecosystem because they effectively reduce costs on an overall basis by bringing the internet traffic more efficiently to the country, but also they improve the quality of service and to the end user. And I would say even more importantly, what we've seen is that when country establishes such a neutral, open internet exchange points, they often become hubs of knowledge and hubs of innovation. So you then see data hosting facilities being located next to an internet exchange points, perhaps some training programs to make them sustainable, etc. So they are a kind of catalyst for a good internet ecosystem in any country. Now, here is a map of the IXPs that I've taken from the website. I believe this is a map of IXPs that are based on this neutral, open, public peering principle. And in the region, again, that we're here today, I think there's one in Uzbekistan that is mapped here. I'm not claiming it's fully right, so it might be that there are some that are missing. It's probably a couple of months ago that I've taken this. But again, you see that in Europe, it's very full, also in the other continents. So again, it seems that this traffic exchange, it's an area perhaps that these regions should look at. And as also Askar Kutanov said in his presentation, the CAREN currently links back into Asia or Europe for connectivity, so there's no actual connection between the different countries within the Central Asian region. So this could be one way forward. And what we do here at the Internet Society, so we have, for example, a very large program in Africa that we run. We have a grant from the African Union, and we have helped 16 countries, some of them have not been done yet, but 16 countries to establish a domestic IXP. And also we have helped to train the local people to run them and create this ecosystem. We've done this also in Europe, and this is a kind of a program that we are more than happy to try and scale elsewhere as well. So those were my thoughts. Just a few words to conclude. So how can governments and other local stakeholders boost content localization? So of course, as we've been discussing here, the connectivity is the starting point, including the regulatory framework and to make that working. Also, e-government programs can be very useful as an example to create content. So in many countries, government can be a facilitator and really create some compelling services online, and hence try and boost up local content and also the uptake of internet use within a country. As we mentioned already, local data hosting facilities are facilitators and important, as is the internet exchange point. And finally, the government can also promote skills programs in general to help create and help users to create and consume the content. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Maarit. Thank you for being quick because we're running out of time. I have actually two speakers in the queue. I will start with you. Thank you, by the way, for jumping in at the last minute. Sadam Beku Kubanish, who is the Deputy Director of the Infocom, the State Enterprise at the State Registration Service. Thank you for joining us, and the floor is yours.
Good afternoon, dear participants of the symposium. Good afternoon, speakers. And I would like to brief you about the role of Internet technologies in development of the public sector. Unlike previous speakers, I'll try to be brief. And I'll try to cover the items which require attention. For the beginning, a bit of statistics. You can see the diagram. In 2012, the number of Internet users has grown exponentially compared to other years, and the number of users of mobile connection. This is communication. This is just general information which you already have. According to the e-government survey 2012, 190 positions of the index have been formed based on the three indicators: online services, telecommunication infrastructure, human resources, and the leaders of these positions are South Korea, Netherlands, Great Britain. And these are the indicators. Kyrgyzstan, according to this index, in 2012, ranked and has raised by 8 indexes, which is almost 0.5%. From this slide, the role of Internet technologies starts in development of public sector of the Kyrgyz Republic. This is the policy on November 17. The program was adopted for introduction of e-governance for 2014-2017 in public authorities, as well as the action plan of the government of the Kyrgyz Republic on implementation of e-governance for 2014-2017. This program, implementation of this program, the decision was made in 3 stages. First is preparatory stage 2014, then transition 2015, and operational 2016-2017. General concept of e-governance, e-government, will be based on these 3 pillars: single policy, ICT policy, infrastructure, and systems for e-government, which we will describe in details later. Key areas of the previous program information communication technologies, development of ICT, skills, public government, education, healthcare, development of local communities, development of local ICT sector. This slide demonstrates the model of e-government. First of all, we need to set up the governmental registries. Next is information systems of public authorities at local level and linked to the public registers and information system of planning, monitoring and statistics, which at the central level will implement the link. Then National Certification Center, it has been already implemented. These 3 systems, 4 systems should be a basis for the e-services portal, e-government portal and electronic payment system, where citizens, legal persons will be the users, as well as public service centers for our citizens. The principle is KG Road. Here you can see the model of interconnection between the public authorities, including agriculture, transportation, energy sector, education, healthcare, all these things should be based on the principle of interdepartmental cooperation. The main principle of introduction of e-governance in the Kyrgyz Republic is the focus on the interests of citizens and business community. And the priority areas are regulations, which needs modernization to ensure implementation of the decisions. Next is e-government architecture, national-wide system with a single infrastructure and server. Then financial and economic efficiency, e-services to speed up the affordable and high-quality services based on interactive e-services, then human resources and digital literacy, and improvement of capacity of civil servants and awareness raising about e-services, then openness and participation of citizens, improvement of accountability and participation of citizens due to their participation in decision-making via ICT, governance and coordination, and to ensure targeted implementation of the program through setting up efficient facilities of interdepartmental coordination. And this is a general model, drafting uniform policy for internet services, development of infrastructure by main communication lines and Wi-Fi. role of internet in public sector. Penetration of internet at the central level is high. The regions actively use the network communication, and information systems are actively implemented, and cooperation and between the central part and regions of the country. Growth of infrastructure and internet investments. Computer literacy of public servants have been raised recently. And this is the role of internet technologies in development of public sector. And it will be based on a safe internet environment where internet, unlike a private sector, could be safe. Thank you for your attention with regards to further development of internet. We have hundreds of different forecasts, but future changes and future technologies are very difficult to predict. But anyway, we cannot imagine our life without internet, because it's an integral part of our lives. And without internet, we cannot do anything, and we need to introduce internet technologies to automate processes of services based on new information communication technologies. And therefore the role will be important. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much for your slides in data that are very useful, and also thank you very much to be kind enough to just make it in 10 minutes, which was really a challenge. I have a cruel trade-off to share with you. The last speaker, who obviously has a wonderful slideshow to present you, was me, but we are actually really running out of time. So I will have to sacrifice myself. You will have to invite me again for this slideshow to be presented. And the reason is also that I won't resist asking our panel, and I would like you to pick up the question, and of course open the questions to the floor. I'm sure you guys might have questions you would like to address, but I have an immediate one. We have organized in the past in the Internet Society lots of conversation about development local content, including with the OECD, and we all agreed actually on the fact, and I will quote the OECD representative who said at that time that development of local content, internet infrastructure and access price could no longer be taken separately. That we need a broader holistic policy approach that can actually address and embrace the whole three areas. Progress in one area would have an impact in the two others area, etc. I would like your take about that. I would like your experience and whether or not you support such a quote. And I would like to include the audience as well. Maybe starting with you, Mr.
Okay, thank you for the question. Regarding the local content, in the perspective of a local operator, national operator, I can tell that local content is growing, and we have very good possibilities to help local companies to provide any service they want locally or regionally or globally. So as a Kyrgyz Telecom, we have our premises, and we have also our data center that we can give to anybody who want to have the servers installed, co-location or the hosting services. In this case, it's free access. Any company can do it. We have no restrictions. First, second, as a content side, in the morning there was very good presentation showing the nature of the content. Of course, giant companies, OTT companies like Facebook and others, so they're dominating. And for local content, this is unfortunate because we couldn't compete with this kind of giant companies like Facebook or Mail.ru or Yandex. But still, we have our content which is growing. And the trend is, I think the trend will be positive. I'm not sure about the figures, but I think next year and as I told before, we finished our strategic fiber optic line with south and north, which will give to our customers with more capacity to use local data, local content. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Mr. Deputy Minister.
Спасибо большое. Я просто хотел бы вопрос местного контента разделить на две части. То есть это те, которые создаются в нашем
by our national domain KG, and every year the number of second and third level domains is growing, but not all of them are stable. But this is a natural process of development. But I would like to say that popularity of such world websites as Google, Facebook, Mail.ru, Yandex is growing not because we are interested in what is going there, but because our local information is placed there, which is also domestic content. Probably the platforms are more convenient and interesting. For example, popularity of Facebook or Odnoklassniki is rather high. And I would like to say that we have a favorable environment which will occur in 2015-2016 due to development of the operators, because they will go to the regions. And the current content which brings our sites to the first positions of the rating have mainly been generated in the capital. Once the broad width goes to the regions, I expect that the next 2 to 3 years will boost the number of content by dozens of folds.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? Please.
У меня вопрос как раз касательно местного контента. И вот планирует ли министерство
develop, and you know we already have domains in Cyrillics, so do you plan to develop KG domain with some other Cyrillic letters in Kyrgyz language? Is it planned or not? I got your question. Last week we had negotiations with the authorized person from ICANN, and we have been certified that Kyrgyz Republic can get free domain in Cyrillic zone. And yesterday, I believe, on my Facebook page, I asked the questions, what domain our users would like to have. There are some options, KG, but in Latin sometimes people confuse it with KR, which is Southern Korea. There were some other options, KR, Kyrgyz Republic. Then they can confuse it with KP because same letters. And right now the discussion is starting about which domain would be the best. And so far KG, Z, KGS are the first, but in Latin letters. And officially we have KGZ and SomKGS. So these two options are the leaders, and I believe that the procedure of transferring the Cyrillic-based domain can happen in 2015. And development of our domestic market will determine the demand for that. We also have started active negotiations about obtaining the first level domain in Latin script kyrgyzstan.manas.bishkek.osh. And another domain, I do not remember it by heart. So the work has been planned for 2018. The only thing is that these domains will be chargeable. Currently, each of them is about $185,000. Why it's 2018? Because after 2016, we expect the policy of when domains will be cheaper for the countries, and so we will wait. And we heard that it will be 3 times cheaper. And this is one of the options. And in order to solve this issue successfully, we are negotiating that the Kyrgyz Republic and the person of communication administration would be represented in political committee of ICANN. And I believe that next year we will be able to solve this issue. I hope that I've covered your questions. Question to the Minister of Transport. What about objectives to digitalize the historic content which belongs to the National TV Radio Company? And do you plan to place them on internet? I think this is one of the key data which could boost local content of historical nature. The information in internet will be archived automatically at the relevant resources. As to our key TV radio channel of the country, this work is being done. You probably remember about 10 years ago, there was an assistance to the National TV Radio Corporation when they got the equipment for digitalization of the gold fund of National TV. After digital TV, some standards have been changed, and we know that we all are used to MP4, but MP7 is expected, which would allow us to keep the quality and to reduce the volumes. And we have some plans. The only thing is that investments are required, and I would like to thank UNESCO, especially Cluster Bureau in Almaty, that assists, among others, the libraries to digitalize our printed historical legacy. So this issue, jointly with the Ministry of Information, Culture and Tourism and with our ministers, is being covered. А мой вопрос к Maarit. Мы имеем точки, да?
But anyway, it helped a lot for developing of local content, though there are some other barriers like very high price for KG domain. So my question is, reading about this conference, I read about some idea about creating a regional exchange point. Is it so? Tell me if I'm wrong.
Can you please be more specific? I don't think we've had any such plans necessarily.
Okay, so I read about the idea of creating regional exchange point, I mean for Central Asia. So I was a bit afraid of such idea, that's why I'm asking.
No, typically at Internet Society, I think that the typical way we go about things is that the Internet exchange points stay domestic. That's the main way that we work with countries. So if there's been a mention of a regional exchange point, I think that's probably a misunderstanding. Maybe an Internet exchange point within countries within the region.
Yeah, thank you, Maarit. Yeah, if I may add something, because Maarit touched a very key issue for us at the Internet Society. She mentioned, well, not in those terms, but the virtuous circle of the IXP, meaning that when you localize the content, you localize the traffic, you then have traffic with lower costs, which then promote local content, etc. So you get something that becomes a virtuous circle. She has been very diplomatic, but we're really open to receive, to listen to requests from local stakeholders to help them. We have a project and support for capacity building in IXP, but of course this is bottom up. It needs to come from the local stakeholders in a very multi-stakeholder way, which is also very important for us. So we remain very open to any suggestion in any country we go. We very open about that. We truly believe in this. We have evidence of how beautifully it works and efficient it is. So that was it. No, there is no plan at all to build whatever stuff in the region without the local stakeholders being aware of. I mean, it's just the other way around. It's a real bottom-up initiative. Thank you.
Could I just make one more point? So just to give you an example, recent example, we did what we call an IXP workshop in Tbilisi in Georgia in August this year. So Georgia is a country that doesn't have an IXP for the moment. And in a way you might say that the telecoms environment is similar to here. They have two very strong telecoms players, Caucasus Online and Silknet, who have private peering arrangements with smaller operators, etc. But they haven't established an open, neutral internet exchange point, which we believe that would drive down the prices. And there, for example, the regulator, the government, they approached us and said, well, we don't want to regulate this. We don't want to force an internet exchange point on the market because that's not the way to go. But we would like you to help us create some discussion around this. So we had a two-day workshop in Tbilisi. We had 20 or 30 people, all the major telecoms operators in the room, mobile, fixed, NREN, other people who content providers. There were some data center hosting companies, etc. And I think this is the way forward, to bring the people together, discuss it, and then with small steps start testing if this might work in any country. Thank you.
Any other questions? Please feel free, knowing that you are now stealing your own coffee break, but that's just your problem. But I'm very open, so no pressure. If that, I would like you to help me thanking the great panel of today.